driving, so I'll be focusing on the road and just speaking to the camera here. And the topics of today's live stream. This is the first time, by the way, that I've done a live stream where I'm driving and the video is actually focused on me. So let me know how it is on your end, I guess, if you would like to. But anyways, I'm driving here. I'm in my F-150 pickup truck, which is the only vehicle owned by the company at this time. So I no longer have the van. You could say I've upgraded to the pickup truck. It's loaded with miles too, but it has 90,000 fewer miles than the van, sitting at a mere 260,000 right now. Um, I also owe money on the truck still. I did not owe any money on the van, so in a way that feels like a downgrade. But the vehicle can do more of a lot of things, but less of certain things. Specifically, it can do less of enclosed transport. The actual capacity of the weight that it can carry is pretty much similar to the van. I think they were both rated to carry approximately 1,500 pounds. Um, but the truck has a smaller space to do it in. It does have an enclosed um, back. So back there, there's a cap on the truck, and it's, I would say, 98% watertight as opposed to 100% on the van. So when I picked up some items today, which are going to Alaska, I individually wrapped everything in plastic wrap very thoroughly. I don't think water or moisture was really going to be an issue at all. It is pretty well sealed back there, but I don't want to take chances with a customer's item. So everything is extremely well wrapped. So as far as vehicles go, that's what I'm driving. You can see right behind me, this is a wooden bed that I built, just a very, very simple bed frame that I built and put a couple pieces of foam down and blanket sheets, etc. So that is what I have provided myself so that I can sleep relatively comfortably in the truck and not pay for a hotel any more than necessary. I usually give myself about one hotel stay in a week um, on the road, and sometimes that's just to regroup or whatever, just if I really feel like I need it. But that's also why I'm paying for a Black Card membership at a Planet Fitness now. I know a lot of truck drivers kind of, not a lot probably, but a handful of truck drivers promote that. And it gets pretty awkward with a semi truck because, um, their lots really aren't made in most cases for a semi truck. Yeah, but if the person is their customer, I've firsthand seen some awkward scenarios around that. But when you're in a pickup truck, especially without a trailer, it's very much a good go-to, both to get a shower, but also to, maybe sit down at one of their tables in the Black Card spa area and just sit and make a video, get things done online. Um, Go in, I usually use the hydro massage or something else just to get a break and relax on the road. So I think it's a really, really great plan. Usually there is a um, Planet Fitness in most, even mid-sized cities. So um, I never really have a hard time finding one on the road if and when I want to. Um, so, anyways, there's that. I saw a couple people join here for a minute and then disappear because apparently whatever I was talking about was not all that interesting. Um, anyways, one of the reasons I do the live is because it's a really easy way to record. I'm partially just trying to keep myself engaged, to be honest. Um, I had a super late night last night. I got started way later in the day than I really should have on the drive out to Virginia, and I got pulled into a park and ride because I was way off the expressway already, and that was seemed like the best place to just catch a nap. And so I pulled into a park and ride at like 2:30 a.m. Um, and I decided to just go ahead and kick out a video. Really didn't take long at all, by which I mean like half an hour. Um, and then making the video kind of gave me a second wind, so I really didn't feel all that tired. And I sat up and um, on YouTube for a little while, which is not necessarily all that healthy of a thing, especially when it's 3 in the morning. I ended up trying to go to sleep around 3:30 in the morning with my alarm set for 7:30. And that park and ride, I don't know what people are doing at 4:35 in the morning, but there were just multiple vehicles that came in playing loud music. I guess I thought a park and ride way out in the middle of nowhere in Virginia wasn't going to get really any traffic at all. And when I pulled in, there was like 2 vehicles in there. So I thought it was going to be a nice, quiet place to catch a few hours of sleep. I was very wrong. Um, I guess people really were pulling in at 4 a.m. maybe to wait for whoever they carpool with to work, just blasting music while they were waiting. It does not seem like the thing to do at 4 a.m. to me. Obviously, they're not thinking someone's sleeping in their vehicle in the lot, so it wasn't intentionally rude or anything, but just very unexpected. And I did not sleep worth a darn. Um, I did not get too cold, and I mentioned this in my video as I was leaving um, my home. I sleep with 2 blankets at home when it's 60, 65 degrees, and I sleep with 2 blankets pretty much any temperature on the road. And I'm always kind of surprised because, I'm thinking it's like getting down into the 20s, even the teens sometimes I expect to be cold, and I'm completely comfortable. In fact, usually sticking my feet out the bottom end of the blankets because I'm getting too warm. So, thankful for that, I guess. I've worked with other people who constantly complain about how cold they get at night, and they say no matter how many blankets they use, they're just too cold. And I think that's something that makes the job not a good fit for some people. Um, Simply, if you can't get a comfortable night's sleep, it's not going to work for you. And then if you need to spend $50 to $100 a night at a hotel every night to get a comfortable night's sleep, then you're gonna spend a lot of money and you're gonna need to make a lot more money to sustain that. And I don't feel like $50 to $100 a day is an expense that I need to put on myself or that I need to put on my customer to cover. Um, and if I do make enough to spend that kind of money, I'd rather save it because $100 uh, adds up to quite a lot just at the end of a week, even in a month. That's a lot of money. Um, so if I can make enough money to be able to do that, I'm still not going to do it. Um, so I think there's better ways to spend that money. But anyways, so one reason I'm on here live is to keep myself engaged because I didn't get any sleep last night, and I got I'm not sure, maybe a 1 hour nap, where around 6 o'clock, I think I was just very tired, feeling like I was having a hard time focusing on the road, and I knew I needed to pull off. So I pulled off, ironically, when I saw another park and ride, and just climbed in the back, fell asleep, um, and I did not set an alarm because I'm like, one of the things about this job is that I set my own schedule for the most part. I'm not answering to anybody outside of myself, and I do actually have a commitment tomorrow, at my workplace, but it's not till 4 p.m., and I wasn't worried about sleeping so long that I'd miss that. Um, I have an appointment at my bank at 10 a.m. He called me, asked, what I want to have a sit down meeting with you, see what we can do, to benefit you. And spoiler alert, I think what I'm going to say is what you can do is probably cancel out that account. I've just had too many, and we'll talk about it. I'm open to discussion, but um, I don't like to see fees on my bank account, especially when they're complex and they don't, you know, um, when it just feels like to me, the way that the system is set up with the Huntington business account, there's too much potential for fees. And then there's like ways that you can avoid them and things you can do and criteria you can meet over the course of a month to avoid those fees. But it's just a little too complicated, and I like things that are simple. I also like to not have any fees when I bank because I'm putting my money into the bank, and the business right now is growing, doing good. I'm seeing a good trajectory, and I'm keeping a few $1,000 in the bank, um, and that's only weeks after I started the business, because I really did a complete hard restart, different business name, different business strategy. Um, Completely disowned my LLC and started up under Send It Delivery Co. The same as if I was starting completely from scratch. And, to go from the $800 van, $500 cash, and now have a few $1,000s in the bank just 4 weeks later, that says good things. And that's really exciting, but it also means that my bank has a few $1,000s right now, and very, very potentially that's going to get much higher. And that is money that is added to their altogether lump of money that they can loan out, that they can make interest on, that they can leverage for the things that banks do to make money. And we know that banks make a lot of money, um, charging interest on our money that we loan out, because the interest we get is not even close to the interest that they get when they loan that money out. But where's the money come from? It comes from all of the customers who are putting their money into the bank. So, anyways, with that logic, I do not like to see any fees, and I don't like a structure that has the potential for fees. So sorry, that's a little bit of a rant, but I am most likely going to go into my 10 o'clock meeting at the bank tomorrow and say, I'd like to close out this account because I'm really enjoying my Mercury account. Mercury is a banking app for startups primarily for tech startups. I got in pretty early with them. I'm not 100% if the criteria has changed or not since I got in. So if that's something, you're watching this and you're like, oh, that's really interesting. I do not know if as a startup trucking company, you might still be able to get your foot in the door there or not. Um, But Mercury makes my banking very, very simple. There's no fees ever. Um, I it's just so straightforward. I have a debit card. It works. I have a electronic debit card on my phone. It works anywhere that tap to pay is available. Um, Even if I overdraw or whatever happens, there's just no fees ever. Um, and obviously, I'm sure if I really, really pushed the envelope for some reason and didn't pay back an overdraft over an extended period of time, they'd come after me in some sort of way. But um, overall, it's just completely hassle free. And it's also under the business name Send It Delivery Co. So I think that I'm going to keep my banking there. And I do want to say for Huntington, just I try to be really neutral and unbiased and objective. Huntington has a lot of great policies that have benefited me in the past. Um, they have an overdraft forgiveness that will last a couple 24 hours technically, but it doesn't really start until the end of the business day or the start of the next business day. So you kind of get 48 hours out of it. If you land on the weekend, you get the weekend. If you land on a holiday, you get the holiday. So that's benefited me a few times, and they will let you overdraft quite a lot. On my account, I believe I've overdrafted up to $2,500 in the past, which is never your goal as a business owner. But there's been a situation specifically coming back from Alaska where I had some really unexpected vehicle expenses on the way, and I managed to overdraft my way out of that until I reached my destination, dropped off the load, and got paid, and then basically brought my account back to zero, whereas I expected to bring my account up to $2,500 at drop off. So, um, obviously, it wasn't the outcome I was looking for, but I didn't get stranded in the Yukon territory of Canada, which is what could have happened if I didn't have a card that would overdraft. So, definitely some major selling points for Huntington, and I'm I'm gonna have a conversation with him. It's not gonna be me walking in saying I'm upset and I want to cancel my account, um, but it may possibly be time to cancel that account. And another reason is simply that it's under the name Jimmy Riggs LLC, and I really am pretty serious about phasing that out completely and focusing on Send It Delivery Co. I'm thinking of even officially closing down that LLC just to avoid the complications of having a business open that I'm not really operating under at all. Um, but having said that, I got a cold call today, and it's really, really uncanny. And we'll see how this goes. But I did get a cold call today. By the way, thank you, my one viewer. I assume the same person on for the last 5+ minutes. So if that's one person sticking around and watching this, thanks so much. I appreciate you. And I noticed you there in the little person count there. Um, Anyways, so I got a cold call today. Timing is very uncanny because I just was half an hour away from picking up these items going to Alaska. They're loaded into the back of the truck right now. These are personal items going from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Anchorage, Alaska. And about 30 minutes out from pickup, I got a call and I recognized the Alaska area code right away. Um, and I actually assumed it was the person I was picking up for giving me a ring. And it was not. It was a guy who had seen the business name Jimmy Riggs LLC on um, apparently on some paperwork that he was looking at as he was purchasing a drift boat. Drift boats are little um, aluminum boats that you kind of set in the water in a flowing river and let it just drift downstream as you're fishing. It's in Idaho. And so apparently he was buying a drift boat, and somehow that paperwork um, was visible. And so he did his research, transport one to Alaska, and immediately I was like, yes, I sure can, and I would love to, because I'm already coming to Alaska. I am bringing an empty trailer with me because on the way back to the lower 48, I am hauling an ultralight airplane and I need that trailer, but it's going to be empty on the way up, so it couldn't be more perfect. And I quoted him $2,000, and I actually felt like, since I put all my cards on the table, he might be like, "Oh, could you do it for less? Because you're already coming up with an empty trailer." But actually, he was kind of alarmed at the price because it's so low, and it is very low for any transport to Alaska. But I'm transparent. Um, my cards are on the table. I already have $1,900 in the back of the truck right now, um, in payout when I drop off those items. I would love to see a payout of $3,900. The extra $2,000 puts me there, and his pickup in Montana is probably not much out of my way, if at all. And the drift boat and trailer combined weigh 900 pounds, which is nothing. Um, So in my mind, I'd rather give him a good deal and secure the transport than reach for something and have him maybe go a different direction. In retrospect, I think I could have and maybe should have asked a little bit more, but $2,000 is something I'm happy with, especially when I was ready to come up without it at all, and just be glad that something in the bed of my pickup truck is paying the trip, and then I'm making my money on the way back down with the ultralight airplane. Um, so he called me, and here's where things get a little bit dicey, and this is what I need to navigate soon. Um, if you're whoever's viewing this right now, and whoever might view it later when I post it onto my YouTube channel, which is the other reason that I do these live videos, not only to keep myself awake and engaged, but also because I can use this time that I'm driving to create content for my channel and to put some information out there. And I generally don't get a whole lot of interest or viewers on them, but I'm here for the process. So I'm gonna just keep making videos, keep um, putting the information about my business out there. My goal is not, just to get viewers or whatever, but it's to be transparent, to have records and everything else. So, um, hey, I just saw someone else showed up. It's always a little distracting, but I appreciate you being here. Um, so I can just go ahead and spit this information out here, and then anybody who wants to view it later, you know, if um, if I'm fortunate enough that there's increasing interest in what I'm doing and what my channel is about, and people want to kind of go back and see the history of that and how it built up, it'll be there. It'll be there on YouTube, whether anyone watches it or whether they don't. And goodbye, my one viewers. Um, cool. So the issue that I'm facing right now is that I just submitted to have my DOT number inactivated. And that does not mean that I can't transport things, but what it does mean is that I cannot be paid to transport more than 10,000 pounds, and actually technically I cannot be paid for a load that requires my gross rated weight to be over 10,000 pounds. So as soon as I'm putting something on a trailer of the size that I'm going to be using, my gross weight will be over 10,000 pounds. Hello, whoever just came in. Um, so if I'm transporting with just the truck, and I'm going to consider what I have in the back of the truck, even if I am pulling the trailer for a different purpose, I'm transporting it in the truck. The truck's gross rated weight is 6,500 pounds. I can do that. I do not need commercial insurance. I do not need a DOT number, and that's all completely legal. And I can be paid for it. But what I cannot do legally without a DOT number is transport something that requires my gross rated weight between both truck and trailer to be over 10,000 pounds. And the shipment that I have lined up coming back from Alaska is going to use a trailer that, even empty, puts me over 10,000 pounds. And clearly, the rating on the trailer plus the rating on the truck puts me over 10,000 pounds. And even for this drift boat going up to Alaska, which is 900 pounds, um, because I will be putting it on the trailer instead of pulling it directly on its own trailer, which it's also on, um, it will be over 10,000 pounds. Now, a lot of people will go ahead and do that with no DOT number, no markings on their vehicle, and it will go completely fine because there's really no reason for them to be pulled over and questioned, especially when it doesn't even look like a commercial load. It looks like someone hauling their own very specific item. Um, but I'm at a place where I don't want to do anything illegal. I don't want to be. I just want to be completely above board, completely transparent. I am tired of the way that the DOT system works and the FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, works. I'm not a fan of it. I've been wronged by it in some very specific ways. But at the same time, I'm not here to make a statement by doing something illegal, especially when I'm documenting everything right on YouTube. That kind of operates as some level of accountability for me as well. And even though I could justify it, because when I did everything legal and right and used the DOT number and used my operating authority and everything else, hey, what's up? I see your comment there. Um, when I did all that, the FMCSA actually put me out of business because they spelled my company name wrong. And then when they corrected it, they required that my insurance resubmit insurance filings. And so my insurer, which was Progressive, is also at fault there because I called Progressive multiple times and said the FMCSA needs you to resubmit these filings, and they said no, they don't. There's no reason they should need that, and they just didn't do it. I asked them multiple times during the grace period to go ahead and do it, to go ahead and check it. Can you please just make sure? Can you just check? Can you do it if it needs to be done? They didn't check it, they didn't do it. Sure enough, it did need to be done, and the FMCSA placed my business out of service as a result. And I had to call both organizations, both Progressive and the FMCSA, for 7 months before anybody actually answered what had happened, because the FMCSA kept saying Progressive needed to submit your insurance and they didn't do it. And Progressive kept saying we did do it, we did do it, we did do it. And that just didn't add up. So, and I'll post this to my YouTube channel soon, but this is a video I'll have to make when I'm not driving, obviously, to kind of piece together the clips. But I have those phone conversations recorded, and finally someone at the FMCSA said, "Hey, hang on a minute. Oh shoot, it looks like we made a mistake." And the mistake was simply that they put my name, my business name with no space between Jimmy Riggs, comma, LLC. No space between the comma and the LLC. A day later, they realized their mistake. They corrected it. When they corrected it, they needed new filings. Insurance refused to do new filings. They didn't call insurance directly. They don't do that. They, because they didn't get the new filings, they put me out of service. But it all originated with an FMCSA mistake. So you can probably see why I don't like the FMCSA, and I don't like being obligated to be a part of that system that I have had such a terrible experience with. At the same time, if I want to get paid to do transports over 10,000 pounds gross weight, I need to be a part of that system. So the solution I came up with, and like any big decision and any big risk, I'm kind of just working through it in my head, and playing out the scenarios of how it could go, and trying to weigh out whether I'm making the right decision or whether I should just go ahead and get that number again and play that game again. But the solution I've come up with is to do the transports for free, because if I don't get paid for it, I don't have to have a DOT number. So why would I do the transport for free? Um, it's not going to be without a cost to the customer, for two reasons. One, if it doesn't cost the customer anything, if there's no assigned value to transport, then that would completely mess with the transportation industry, right? Like, I'm not big enough to really make a huge impact. It's not like Swift all of a sudden saying every transport is free, but at the same time, I'm going to make people mad at me, right? If I'm not charging anything to do transports, because all of a sudden that messes with the perceived value, and people are going to have me transport for them. Obviously, if they have the choice, if they have the option, they're going to get the free transport. Um, so there needs to be a cost to the customer still, and it needs to be equivalent to what I would have charged, so it's not skewing the value of transport. The other reason is because when I make money, and this is just the reality and has been for years, when I make money, I often give away a fair amount of that money. And that's because I've been in life situations and places where I've met people with ongoing financial needs. And I'm talking about people who I've befriended in third world countries while I'm traveling. And it's not like something where it's like, well, just go get a job, or any of those other answers, which we can debate all day whether there's value in taking a stance towards a U.S. citizen that I'm not going to help you because you should just go get a job. But when we're talking about somebody who is essentially a refugee in um, in a third world country, and they're working every bit as hard as I am, and they're working harder than most people in any developed nation have to work ever. and they're still struggling to feed their children, to feed themselves, to provide adequate housing for themselves and their children. And I know that, this is a hot topic and something that's up for debate even in the US about whether wages are adequate for people to provide dignified housing for themselves, for their kids, enough, you know, um, clothing and food and good food, quality food and everything else. So there's a lot to unpack there, but the fact is that I am accustomed to giving away money when that is asked of me. And so I would really, personally, I would like to make the money directly, um, and then have 100% autonomy on who I give that to and how I give that money away, if that's what I'm going to do with it. And I'd like to make a lot of money so that I can, um, assist on my own terms, because we have tons and tons and tons of charitable organizations in the world, and we still have a lot of suffering and a lot of struggle and a lot of poverty and a lot of those problems persisting. And maybe they're doing a lot of good. Maybe we're far better off than we would be if those organizations didn't exist and weren't doing what they're doing. Um, and at some point, there's a little bit of pride or whatever, or confidence, or um, experience, and highly specific experience and awareness of situations and maybe what the dynamics are in those situations. And I start to think, if I had a lot of money, I think I could be very effective at addressing some of these things. Um, at the same time, I don't I don't think I've even just spit out what I'm planning to do. I'm planning to ask my customers to make a charitable donation, instead of paying me. And so, we can work out something that both the customer and I feel good about, what organization it's going to, um, and a cause that we both feel good about. I'm not going to ask them to donate to a cause that only I feel good about, but it's not, something that they support or whatever. Going to try to keep it away from anything that gets political in any direction, and just towards things that meet very real, very basic needs, for the people who need it the most. Um, which I feel like, anybody of any political opinion can kind of agree, like, on meeting the very basic needs of children, for example, who really don't have any say whatsoever in their situation. Um, so, where I would rather not go that way is because, I'm looking at $5,300 just in 2 weeks of transports, $5,300 being donated, which is awesome. On one hand, that's awesome. On the other hand, that's $5,300 that I could have made directly if the system works the way it's supposed to work. And then that's $5,300 that I can use, hopefully, um, in very effective ways myself. And it always feels a little bit better to have control over, or at least it seems like it feels better to have some control over things, and to say, well, this is how I believe the money should be used, and I get to do that. And once you give it to a charity, sometimes to me, it feels like it's just one little tiny drop in the bucket of their operating funds, and to me, it feels like it doesn't matter. And maybe that's something I need to get over, because I'm not there. I'm not seeing how it does matter. I'm not seeing how it's being used. And so it's really easy to just kind of imagine it disappears into this ocean of funds, and it doesn't and it just doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. Just because I'm not there, just because I'm not seeing it, doesn't mean it's not making a difference. And I think that maybe there's a little bit of letting go there where I need to trust if it is um, given to an organization and I research that organization. I know that they use their money well. I know that a high percentage of directly do charitable work, and I know that I agree with the way that they're approaching that charitable work.